Hi, I'm Andrew Bell. I'm the Senior Tutor here at Univ. As a Senior Tutor, I've got general overall responsibility for academic matters. That includes undergraduate and graduate admissions, teaching and learning, academic policy, and representing the college in a variety of fora elsewhere in the university and beyond. I've been here for about a decade and it's flown by because it's an absolutely fantastic job. As Senior Tutor, I've got general oversight of all academic matters. That includes undergraduate and graduate admissions and indeed outreach and the work we do with schools. It also includes teaching and learning and a number of aspects of the academic experience of students' time here. It also means that I'm involved in the policies that shape the way that we approach undergraduate education. I represent the college on a variety of bodies out in the university and out in the world. And I work pretty closely with our wonderful academic colleagues to make sure that we can integrate all aspects of their careers, their research, their teaching, their other roles in a way that works, well, as effectively as it can in a busy modern university.
Yeah, and you've been here for how long now?
10 years.
10 years. And that's, a whole decade.
Tell me about it.
I know, sorry to bring it up, but how has Univ changed in that time?
There's a lot that's consistent in what Univ's done in recent decades. What I mean by that is we have always focused on small group undergraduate teaching delivered in as individual and as excellent a way as we possibly can. We've always sought to give a fabulous graduate provision for our ever-increasing number of graduate students who are coming here. And we've always had at the core of our mission excellence in teaching and research. So there's a lot that's really consistent, but there are things that have changed. So as I just implied, the size of the graduate community has increased very considerably, if not over the last decade, then certainly over the last 2 decades. The breadth of backgrounds from which our undergraduate and graduate students come has certainly increased very considerably, which means we've got a lot more experiences, but also a lot more languages and a lot more cultures and a lot more faiths represented in the college. One thing that I think often isn't spoken about is just how much the standard of undergraduate applications has increased. So if you go back to the year 2000, we had maybe 4 or so applicants per place, something like that. We now have something like 7 or 8 applicants per place.
Wow.
And that's really driven the quality and the selectiveness that we've been able to bring to bear.
One of the things that's happened at Univ in the past 10 years has been the programme Opportunity Oxford. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about that programme.
Sure. So Opportunity Oxford is a university-wide programme which is about supporting the application experience and the study experience of students who've got tons of ability, tons of potential, and are very highly qualified, but come from backgrounds where they've had less additional preparation in academic matters than perhaps applies to what you might call the traditional Oxford applicant of yesteryear. It's a programme that started at Univ. I'm really proud of the college's ambition in launching the programme, and more importantly, I'm really proud of what the students who came through the programme achieved. It's now something which runs university-wide. Something like 300 students per year are made an offer under the programme, and it's been completely fantastic. And one of the most fantastic things about it, and I really mean this, has been what we've all learned from it. So I hope it's been really positive for the students who've taken part. Certainly that's what they tell us. But it's been great for us to have an opportunity to think about the way in which we approach those few weeks and months of teaching undergraduate students, exactly how we identify potential in the people we're considering. And I know that if I speak to a lot of my colleagues who are very experienced teachers, people whose careers long predate the programme, they'd say that it's had a really positive influence on the way they thought about the way they approach their teaching and learning responsibilities.
That's absolutely fascinating, and I think it speaks a lot to what Univ is like as a college, that a programme like this is homegrown within this college. And it's a big academic success story in itself. I was wondering if there were any other academic success stories you could share with us more generally about our students at Univ.
Well, let me take that in 2 parts. So firstly, I really agree. I think it does speak really well of the college. And actually, when I first joined as senior tutor, one of the things I was most excited by one of the reasons I was so pleased to be able to become part of the college in this role, was that it was a college that was outward-looking and forward-looking. It was an imaginative, and it had a whole series of quite large-scale, very innovative projects in hand. These include the development of very large new residential and academic campus in the north of Oxford, the old Staverton site, for people who are familiar with the college, which isn't just about rooms and places for people to live, it's about community. It has a multi-generational component, because as you may know, the site is shared with both a care home and also with a nursery. It has a very kind of environmentally aware thinking baked into its design and the way we expect people to live. So that's one example. But another example would be, for instance, a huge expansion in graduate provision and most especially graduate scholarships, which the college was absolutely at the forefront of, at a time when that was really only very nascent elsewhere in the sector. And that's been hugely exciting to see. And there are plenty of other examples besides. And you asked about, individual success stories on the part of students. The great thing about a college like Univ is it's full of individual success stories, and they're quite different from each other. So some people, their individual success story is that they have been brilliant throughout their school career. They've had a great relationship with their academic work. They've always achieved at the highest level, and their understanding of what the highest level has just ballooned as they've come to somewhere like this, and they've gone on to have an absolutely stellar academic career with us. Maybe they've then gone on to do a PhD and gone into a research job down the line, which we're incredibly proud of. And there's lots of examples of students who've done that. But there are also examples of students who are very focused, very motivated, very diligent, very high achieving. That's why they got in. But they've actually then decided that they want to do perhaps rather different things with their careers. They've drawn on the experiences they've got from maybe leading a student society, or maybe volunteering in a local charity, or maybe doing schools liaison work out in our partner schools out across the country, or maybe something in sport or culture or journalism. And that's been the thing that springboarded them into their careers. And then I do think it's important to say this. There are people whose successes are a bit more quiet, by which I mean their personal successes. They're things that represent huge growth for them, huge achievement for them. You might particularly think of people who've had difficulties that they've been wrestling with and have managed or come to live with or indeed overcome. And I don't want to give individual examples, but because we work so closely with our students as people, so much so, more so than most universities are able to do, we can, at least to some extent, see those quiet success stories. And I think we should be as proud of those as of the ones that you read about in the newspapers.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's really no one kind of Univ student, and success means such different things to different people. So I really appreciate that you speak about success not just in the academic way, but those quiet personal successes that our students have had, and that we're really lucky to get to witness and support these students on that journey.
I really agree, and just briefly, I know it's something that our students see in each other and they celebrate in each other, and I know it's something our tutors see and celebrate as well. And some of the nicest conversations I have with my colleagues among the tutors is exactly that celebration of someone who has, in their own way, really grown, really, had a very positive experience, gone on to show that they can do stuff that maybe they didn't know they could do beforehand. And of course that's not particular to Univ, but this is where we really see it, and this is where we can be proud of it and be proud of them.
A lot of degrees at Oxford have a vocational aspect, but obviously they're not primarily vocational sort of degrees. They're very academic in lots of different ways. But how then does that relate to careers?
Really great question. So all of our degrees are theoretical, they're analytical, they're problem driven, they're about critical analysis and argument and evidence-based interpretation, whether that's expressed in engineering and physics, whether it's expressed in history or in modern languages. Of course, some of those degrees do have some clear vocational framing and expectation. That's most true in medicine, where the vocational aspect is central. But it's true to a degree in engineering, in law, in computer science, and it's there in the background elsewhere. The thing that I think is really important that students understand if they're thinking about a university like this one is whatever degree you do, and I really mean this, whatever degree you do, you're developing really fundamental skills that have a very wide application down the line. Maybe those are skills of fast, complex analysis that allows you to reach a more compelling, convincing, evidence-based argument than someone else can do, on the basis of which who knows what policy or practice can then be built. Maybe they're about written or spoken communication. Maybe they're about handling complex, abstract ideas, and maybe sometimes complex, abstract ideas that have a very important real-world application. Maybe they're about doing something difficult and demanding to quite a tight time scale, whilst you're also living a fairly full and probably quite responsible life. Maybe they're about different types of communication. Maybe if you're doing group lab projects, they're about the kind of collaborative things that follow from that. And then, of course, in the background, for some students, there's all the other stuff they get out of, I don't know, being on the committee of a play, or being in an orchestra, or being a sports team, or, whatever it might be. And I'm not just saying that because it's a nice story. I'm saying it because we can really see it in the outcomes. So for many of our students, the careers that they go on to have aren't shaped by the name of the subject they studied, but they are shaped by the skills they acquired, the experiences they had, and the kind of approaches and understandings they were able to develop. And so I'm sure for the vast majority of our graduates who are in jobs, whether they're 2 years into a career or 30 years into a career, they can draw a pretty straight line between where they are now and what they're doing and what they draw on and what they were doing in tutorials in their second year, even though the subjects they're discussing in their working lives might be quite different from the ones they discussed when they were students.
Oh, great. We've spoken a bit about careers, and I know that you can speak personally about what a degree and studying at Univ can do for you in a career, because you studied at Univ yourself.
I did. So I was an undergraduate and a graduate at Univ in the 1990s. I had an extremely positive experience, and of course it contributed directly to a lot of the career choices I took. But I subsequently went to work at another university. I went to a research post at the University of Cambridge, and then I stayed in Cambridge for 15 years. And you're not going to tempt me into denigrating Cambridge, because I had a great time working with wonderful students and wonderful colleagues, and I'm really proud of that association. But the way I think about these things isn't particularly informed by my own experience, because that's just one person. It's certainly, I hope, not informed by nostalgia, because for me that's not a very helpful way of thinking about who we are. I think having pride in your heritage, having pride in the kind of the expectations of excellence that the tradition supports, that's fantastic. But what you need to be doing is asking, what do students today need? What do academic colleagues today need from their careers? Where can the college be going in the future? I don't want us to be cosy. I think I want us to be proud, but also ambitious and forward-looking.
From what you've said so far, I really feel that something that defines Univ as a college amongst all the other colleges in Oxford is this idea between this older colleges, and we are one of the oldest colleges, and this tradition aspect, but also this forward-thinking innovation aspect with these programmes like Opportunity Oxford. And I really feel that's something that defines Univ and sets it apart in Oxford. But what do you think?
Well, I hope you're right. So yes, we're a college that was founded in 1249. My background's in medieval history, so I can't help but be excited by that. I know it's something that a lot of people feel is fantastic, to be part of something with such a deep heritage. But you're absolutely right. The thing that really characterises Univ today is not that we walk around saying, isn't it great that we're the oldest college? It's that people are thinking about what they can do next, whether that's in their own research. We have a college full of academics who are really at the forefront of their field. They're collaborating in really exciting ways with their colleagues across the world. That's how they're thinking about their role. Our students are thinking about their own future. And we're thinking about how we can bring those two things together, the academic career and student expectations and student experience, in ways that are about what the next, 800 years of our history looks like.
I know that a lot of prospective applicants to Oxford or even Univ might be having a look at this video and they might be thinking, what can I be doing? What advice would you give them?
My most simple advice to them would be work hard and apply.
Yeah.
Because the working hard part of it is really important. You've both got to get really great grades, but kind of more importantly, you've got to get that kind of extended, deep experience in your subject that just makes you better at what you do. And then apply, because the application process actually is pretty straightforward. It's not that arduous.
Yeah.
So rather than worrying about all the details, what I'd say is worry about the subjects that you're good at in the sense of take them seriously. Put in an application if there's a degree that we've got that you might want to study and see how it unfolds. Now, there's a lot more that could be said, but at its core, I think it's that. Work pretty hard, take yourself seriously, take your subject seriously, and apply.
Yeah, and prospective applicants, they always think that there must be some special X factor that we're looking for. They never seem to believe me when I say that. It's as simple as that, but it really is, isn't it?
I do think that's right, yeah. So there are some things that all of our applicants have got in common with each other, certainly all of the successful applicants, which is that at sixth form at least, they've got really strong qualifications and they're headed to do really well. That's a testament to the fact that they're A, very able, and B, pretty focused on their work. They also take their subject seriously. It's a thing that matters to them. They've also taken time from some other aspect of their life and given it to their subject, whether that's through extension work, through extra reading, through ways of developing core skills or broadening core knowledge, so that they've got a kind of wider framework within which to locate their studies. Those are the things that students have got in common with each other. Or put differently, they're really good students. But there are all sorts of other things that they don't have in common with each other. I mean, there are all the things to do with where they've come from and what they're interested in beyond their studies, but even in terms of how they demonstrate their excellence. So there are a few different stages to the application process. There's the core UCAS application. In some subjects there are tests, some subjects there's written work, in all subjects there are interviews. Not everyone shows their ability and potential equally in all of those measures. And so, for instance, it's not like there's one way to do a great interview. There's a whole load of different ways of being a good interview candidate. It's not like there's one type of written work which is demonstrably better than all others. And so I'm quite keen that people realise that if they do the things that support their work, and indeed therefore support application to any university, then they're probably doing the things that support an application to Oxford and to Univ as well.
We touched on a little bit about prospective applicants having different ideas about what Oxford might be and what applying to Oxford might entail, but what in your experience are these most common misconceptions that you see about Oxford?
Yeah, what a great question. I mean, I'm kind of loath because I don't want to repeat things that are kind of myths, as it were. So I think the first thing I'd perhaps focus on is for a lot of students, they imagine that there are lots and lots and lots of applicants applying to the place that they're hoping to get. Sure, our degrees are competitive, but the raw numbers aren't that high. On average, we've got about 7 applicants per place. I realise that might sound like quite a lot, but actually compared with selected universities in the UK, it really isn't. You've got a pretty good hit rate. So the first thing I would say is the numbers aren't so huge that you're going to disappear in them. Quite the opposite. You're actually going to be treated as an individual and your application is going to get a lot of attention in ways that's designed to identify how it is that you have the ability and the potential. I guess it's also worth recognising that for a lot of people there's a concern that there is something other than academic selection at play. Whether that's that we might be looking for a wide range of extracurricular brilliance, whatever that might be, or whether it's some other kind of criteria that they worry might apply. You know, have you done particular awards? Have you won particular prizes? Have you had a position of responsibility in your school? You know, what we're looking at is absolutely the academic stuff in terms of qualifications, in terms of broad skills, in terms of how you've developed your core skills and your core knowledge in ways that are relevant to the future degree. And then I suppose the third thing to mention is there is, of course, a whole series of expectations, which I understand, about the kind of person who comes to Oxford. And those expectations vary. You know, one person will be thinking, oh gosh, you know, I have no prior connection with the place, not what my school's been, not what my family's been, you know, all of that stuff, which, as it happens, is my experience. And therefore, you know, they might be thinking maybe Oxford isn't somewhere that would welcome my application. And as you know, because of all the work you do, completely the opposite is true. We would love to have applications from people like that. And people who are applying from that kind of background of not necessarily having any prior association, but they've got a load of ability and determination, they're great applicants. You know, we really, really take them seriously. I guess on the other side, there are people who think, well, actually, you know, maybe there's some kind of pressure that means that people from my background, perhaps particularly some more advantaged groups, aren't taken seriously. And that's not the case either. We really look at people on their own merits. And I think we understand what that means in a much deeper and more contextualised way than we used to.
At Oxford, we offer subjects that students may have never studied before, especially at Univ, where we do subjects such as Egyptology and Czech and Russian. What advice would you give to students who are considering that but think, oh, I don't know, this is something totally new?
It's a great question. So there are brilliant students out there who have always had total clarity about what they want to do at university. They do all the right GCSEs, they do all the right A-levels or Highers or IB or whatever system they're in. And then what they apply to study and what they get into study is totally natural progression. You know, they were always going to do physics, they were always going to do history, they were always going to do engineering. Great, we love those students. But there are also students who are just as focused, just as brilliant, just as ambitious, just as high achieving, who don't necessarily have that total clarity about one subject. And maybe that's because the thing that actually is going to work really well for them is a thing that they haven't yet had the opportunity to study at school. You gave the example of some languages that are less common at school, or of Egyptology. The students who are interested in something that maybe they haven't had the chance to come across before, or maybe they've only come across it informally, firstly, there is no need to have studied that kind of subject specifically before, because almost everybody is in the same position as you. You know, we know that there aren't lots of applicants out there with prior experience, but we want some of the same qualities and skills. You know, we want people who have shown that they can work hard, that they can achieve within the expectations of their system, and that they can bring to bear really close, critical, rigorous analysis. In the case of the more humanistic subjects, you know, we want people who are interested in written expression, written argument, and close analysis of texts and you know, text-based arguments. We also, I suppose, do need people to know what they're getting into. If you want to do Egyptology, it doesn't matter that you've never studied it before, because who has? But it does matter that you've got a reason to want to do it, and it's hard to have a good reason if you haven't explored it to some degree informally. So I really celebrate applications from students who want to do something that's new to them. I don't think that's a exposing or vulnerable thing to do. I think it's a fantastic thing to do, and we love getting those applications. But I wouldn't try to dissuade the person who knows what they want to do from doing that, because your best chance of success, both in terms of getting in, but more crucially in terms of getting in and doing well and having a positive experience and graduating with a degree behind you that you really enjoyed, is to do a subject that you value, the reasons that matter to you. Because that's where you're going to get your motivation, your enjoyment, your reward. And I just think, you know, allow yourself to be quite selfish in the subject choice you make. And given that we know that our graduates have a lot of career success in ways that are not straightforwardly correlated with the degrees they studied, then why not do the degree that you really love?
One aspect of the application process that every student will have to do is a personal statement. And in my role, I see so many students online talking about, oh, what do I need to put in there? What should I write? So I thought they should hear it from the source. What should they write?
Well, thanks for asking. The personal statement is an important part of the application to any university. It sits within the general application process, UCAS, which all UK universities use.
Yeah.
And it's a student's opportunity to write something about themselves in a structured, defined way, which conveys why they're a strong applicant for whatever courses it is that they've applied for. So the way the personal statement works within the UCAS system today is actually quite structured. Students are essentially responding to prompt questions. And I think those prompts are quite helpful because broadly speaking, they give guidance as to what we and what all universities are looking for. If I wanted to say something that's particular to Oxford, and within that, of course, Univ, but I'm sure other colleges would say the same, it relates to things we've touched on in our conversation already.
Yeah.
We want to see the motivation, we want to see the academic interest, we want to see the things that students have done to develop their academic interests. I guess we want to see the questions they're interested in addressing, the areas academically that they might want to move into. But really we want students to be able to talk about the things they think and the things they have done that bear on their future experience as a student at a very academic, research-intensive university.
Yeah.
So don't be shy about talking about the books you've read or the problems you found hard. Don't be shy to talk about the extension work you've done, the coding projects that you've done, the maths extension work that you've done. And if you don't have anything that's, conventionally very showy, some incredibly prestigious work placement or something, that really doesn't matter at all. Because whilst you can get a lot out of those very formal kind of activities, you can also get a lot out of reading and thinking and working essentially on your own, and then talk about what that's been like for you. So follow the structure that the statement format gives you, and think about yourself as an applicant who is being assessed in terms of your ability, your potential, and your motivation to do the degree. And don't worry about the rest.
I think it's so important to know, I know you touched on it, that people think you have to spend money on doing something really impressive, flying to the particle collider in Switzerland or something like that. But no, just showing you're interested.
Yeah, right. And of course, it's super cool if you get to do something like that. Brilliant. Why not? But most people don't get to do something like that. And I remember once a colleague of mine who was asked exactly this question, saying that the best thing you can do is hurry up, get your personal statement done nice and quick so you can get back in the library and carry on reading some books. Well, had he been in another subject, he might have said, get back to open up your laptop to continue working on your coding project or whatever it might be. But basically, do the stuff that supports your academic interests and your academic ambitions and tell us about it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.